In an era when ancient wisdom was buried under years of ritualistic practices, when games became wars and wars were played like games, a young boy was found in deep meditation in a quaint village in South India known as Ravi Shankar. He would say, I have family everywhere. People are waiting for me.
Good evening, everyone, and a warm welcome to ITW Presents Vista 2020, the annual International Business Summit of IIM Bangalore, brought to you by Prestige Group and powered by Sakra World Hospital, our health and wellness partner. Vista has been a celebration of ideas and leaders that shape the face of business and the global economy for the past 2 decades. We have with us today none other than Gurudev Shishi Ravi Shankar. He is a globally revered spiritual and humanitarian leader. He has spearheaded an unprecedented worldwide movement for a stress-free, violence-free society. Through a myriad of programs and teachings, a network of organizations, including the Art of Living and the International Association for Human Values, and a rapidly growing presence across 156 countries, Shishi has reached an estimated 450 million people. Shishi has developed unique, impactful programs that empower, equip, and transform individuals to tackle challenges at global, national, community, and individual levels. Welcome, sir. It is also my utmost pleasure to welcome Professor Rishikesha T. Krishna, Director, IIM Bangalore, esteemed professors, my fellow colleagues, participants, and guests from 100 plus colleges across the country. We also have senior faculties from Art of Living, Ramanujam Muralidharan and Akansha Yadav with us today. I would like to call upon Ramanujam to introduce our director.
Hello everyone and a very warm welcome to the session. It gives me great pleasure to welcome Professor Rishikesha Krishnan. He is the current director and professor of strategy at the Indian Institute of Management in Bangalore. He completed a 5-year term as director of the Indian Institute of Management Indore in December 2018. Professor Krishnan was educated at IIT Kanpur, Stanford University, and IIM Ahmedabad. He has been listed in the Thinkers 50 India's list of most influential management thinkers from India. Professor Krishnan was a member of the expert committee set up by the Government of India under the chairmanship of Justice B. N. Shri Krishna to propose a data protection framework for India. I would like to extend a very warm welcome to you, sir. And I would like you to please kindly take over the session.
Gurudev, namaste ji. So it's a real honor to have you with us today, and thank you very much for sparing your valuable time to interact with our students and faculty and all the other guests who are attending this session. I wanted to just start the discussion with you on what is currently a very important topic where we need your advice. Many of us, students, professionals, even faculty members, we had lots of expectations before this pandemic suddenly started. We were looking forward to, our educational programs, our new jobs, conferences, projects, etc. And then all of a sudden, this pandemic hit us and, many of our expectations have either been put on hold or there is a big question mark around them. So could you please advise us on, how do we cope with this situation where, there's been a huge change in what's happening around us and looks like many of our dreams may not come true?
Yes, Professor Krishnan, I know, this pandemic has put a brake for almost every career on the planet. But I strongly believe that it's just a temporary phase. It's already getting much better than what it was in the beginning of March, or I would say in April, the amount of tension and uncertainty the pandemic had caused throughout the world has already eased out to some extent. The new norms have come up. People are getting much more used to working online and work from home. And colleges have started, schools have started, online classes have started. Having said this, this pandemic, with all its negative implication, it has also done something good. It has made human being ponder about their priorities. It has compelled one to look into the family values and then rethink one's priorities. On top of this, the virtual world has become more real than the real world. And in some way, it's a technology that has saved the people from going insane. Because of social media and because of these online programs, they could watch and they could interact. Their social connectivity remained. Just imagine if we were in a era which was 2-3 decades back, where not everybody was used to online or programs, or computers were not available those days, though as freely as that is today, and technology was still developing. It would have been a disaster, perhaps. So the pandemic is also causing mental health problems throughout the world now. It's one of the biggest challenges the humanity is going to face in the next decade is mental health issue. Because it's huge change between being among the people and socializing, going out for dinner almost every day and spending weekends in a different way now, keeping the social distancing and having that fear and concern of mingling and mixing with people, staying at home and mask and sanitizer, all these things have created sort of paranoia in society, and it has made a dent on our psychology. And I think it will take a little more time for people to get back to the previous normal, the old normal way of living. It will take. And once a medicine or a vaccine is been established for the virus, then this fear can go away to a great extent, but not totally. I wouldn't say it would totally be gone.
So what can we do, Gurudev, to particularly to address this issue? Any recommendations or advice you have for us? Particularly, you underlined one of the most important challenges: maintaining one's mental health, sanity, equanimity during these troubled times. So, do you have any advice for us on what we can do as individuals to maintain that?
Yeah, first of all, we should not lose hope, because this planet has seen many such pandemics in the past. We should look back in the history. So we have overcome plague, we have overcome SARS diseases, we have overcome many other choleras and many other illnesses. And our society is quite resilient. The real recognition of this, or even a sheer memory of how we have overcome many such pandemics, should give us enough strength to move forward. Next thing is, take care of your health by doing exercise, paying attention to your food habits, and then pranayama and meditation will help you immensely. What I have seen is in this pandemic, millions have started to pranayama and meditation. And meditation has 100 and odd benefits that it gives to our system, body-mind complex. So meditation would help us to get over anxiety, nervousness, and sort of loneliness and, these sort of issues. Yeah.
Thank you, Gurudev. I think our student friends had wanted to, have some interaction with you. Is this the right time to bring that in?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Akansha, over to you.
Thank you so much, Director Sir. Now, I would like to request Akanksha to just set a theme. So, Gurudev, we have students from over 100 colleges across India who have joined in. Over 30,000 students are watching this via Zoom call. So, there are lots of students who have also sent in their questions, and there is a theme for the question and answer session. So, I request Akanksha to just set the theme. Over to you, Akanksha.
Yeah, thank you, Ramanujan. So we are not paying for the product, you are the product. Gay is just a phase. Triggered by the news, weed is a gateway drug. Live-in is against our culture. In this new and confusing age of vastly polarized opinions, millennials are struggling to anchor their beliefs to the right side of the argument. This theme will be explored using Gurudev's timeless wisdom, thus providing the youth some tips to navigate through this ever-expanding madness. Gurudev, we have Sasi and Zubin from Vista, who are second-year students of IIM Bangalore. They would like to ask few questions from you now. Over to you, Sasi and Zubin.
Thank you, Akansha. Gurudev, millennials like us today, we value money, social media, likes, and ourselves more than our family, our values, and health, then at least with respect to the previous generation. Is this existential crisis just a temporary drama, or do you think it's a modern day reality? If so, how do we navigate out of it?
Your question was not audible properly. Can you repeat your question and keep your mic? Yeah.
Is it better now?
Yeah. Go ahead.
So I wanted to ask that millennials like us today, we value money, social media, likes, and ourselves. We value it more than family, the values, and our health, at least with respect to our previous generation. So is this existential crisis just a temporary drama, or is this a modern day reality? And if so, how do we navigate out of it?
Something interesting here is you don't value something you already have. See, you have family, you have a good family, you don't value the family so much. You are healthy, so you don't care about health. Who cares more about their health is one who has problems with their health, right? Who goes to health food shops? Those who have had some issues with their health. If you had no issue about your health, you are robust, you go for junk food. It's quite normal. It's quite natural. So you don't have to worry about it. But recognize you already have these things, You value money. Who value money? Who has been struggling to get money. They value money more. But those who have money, they don't value money so much. These days, many young people from upper middle class families, they don't care for money. They would rather do something that would be for their taste, what they would love to do, but those who have hardship, who have seen hardship with the money, they value money more. This is what I'm saying. So, it's a sort of catch-22. You don't value what you already have. And what is need to be taken care here is don't lose what you already have. So pay a little more attention to that also. It's okay, you can value other stuff, but do pay some attention to what you already have too.
Thank you. So in that context, when you said, those who do not have value it more, so does it mean that more money means less happiness?
Not necessarily, not at all. More money and happiness are disconnected because If you see in the world, all the wealthy countries, they are not ranking high in the happiness index. Not all. It could be one exception of Finland or Norway, which has limped toward that height recently only. But a country like Bhutan has maintained its happiness index in spite of being not so rich. So if you want to count the smiles, and if you happen to count the smiles, you will get more of them in the Bombay, in Dharavi slum of Bombay than in the metro, in the city itself, than in Hanging Gardens or in South Bombay. People are more happy in slum. So that doesn't mean that one has to be poor in order to be happy. Money is a means. If we understand that, we can be happy, even if you have it or if you don't have it. Yeah.
Thank you, Guruji. Now I have a question. Today, stress, depression, and lifestyle changes have created avenues for people to resort to recreational drugs. We have also witnessed national headlines recently on this subject. Is taking drugs acceptable? If yes, should they be legalized? And if not, how can this issue be dealt with, Guruji?
See, when you say something is drug, that definition itself means it is not your food or it's not your vitamin. It's not something that you need to use every day, right? Drug means to bring you back to a normal state of health. That which is used to get your health back. That is what is drugs are. Now, the recreational drugs, does it really make you healthy? No. It makes you sick. And it destroys your nervous system. For what? To experience an altered state of consciousness for a small, short period of time. If you can have an alternative, or if you can get that high from something else, then I don't think you need to go into drugs. And we have that something, that is the meditation, that is the breathing technique. When you do breathing technique and meditation, you get that same altered state of consciousness without destroying your nervous system or your aura, the bioenergy of your system. And this is what happened in the 60s. The entire west coast of America, also the east coast, had a huge wave of recreational drugs at that time. The hippie movement started. And what made the hippie movement come to an end is meditation. When they took to meditation, they said, hey, look at this, I can feel the same happiness, feel the same relaxation, relief with just meditation, and it makes my health also better and not money to be spent. So people changed there. That is, from that we must learn that the need for a recreational drug which makes you addicted to something on one side, on the other side, which makes your attention go down, you suffer from attention deficiency, your intelligence is very badly affected by the drugs again, and many other social behavioral patterns are also very badly affected by the recreational drugs. So looking at the lob side of it, one must avoid at all cost. And at the same time, if someone is already addicted to it, I can assure them if they start meditation, they can very easily and effortlessly come out of it. It is easy to tell people, hey, don't take drugs. But when they are used to it, the body craves. What do they do? And they're not bad people. They know it's not wrong. But when there is an alternative for them, they must go for it. And that is what is meditation.
Understood, Gurudev. Thank you. So my next question is, how important is involvement of youth in mainstream politics? We see considerably very less youth in politics in India currently. Do you have an idea to change this paradigm, or should we leave the policy making to the older generation itself?
Young people should involve. I feel that they should start owning the country much before, before they get to a stage where if they find it's become an irreparable loss and there is more, when youth can do more to the country, I feel they must own it, even in the youth time. At the same time, first build your career. Politics is such a place, it can suck you and keep you there. After that you cannot study. So when you are studying, if you have interest in politics, I would tell you, yes, keep the interest on. Be active in social media. In your free time, spare some time for politics. But do not neglect your career. If you have built a robust career and you have a sound economy backing you, then politics is very good for you. And you are good for politics too.
Definitely, Gurudev. Thank you.
Gurudev, to mix things up, we have planned a rapid fire round for you, where we would like you to select one of the two options which we present to you.
No, you can go ahead. You can go ahead. Any one of the rapid fire, I'm okay.
So the first question I have is God or Guru?
God is already there, better have Guru. Choose Guru.
Meditation or praying?
Meditation, yes. Prayer will anyway follow you. Yeah. When you are desperate, you end up praying. But meditation is something that you have to choose. Yeah.
Ram or Ravan?
Ravan. Because Ravan always invites Ram.
Education or skill?
Skill. Because skill will help you to sail at any point. And it provides you job. Yeah.
Atmanirbhar Bharat or globalization?
You don't need to do any more globalization. It's already there. Atmanirbhar Bharat. Choose that.
Narendra Modi, Rahul Gandhi or Yogi Adityanath?
You have still 4 more years to choose. So wait.
Should we look east or go west?
I would say look within and go south.
The next is capitalism or communism?
South, I am saying Africa is a virgin continent which needs much more attention. It provides a lot of opportunities. South America and Oceania as well as Africa. So go within and go south. Okay, next.
Capitalism or communism?
Humanism. Without humanism, both of them are useless. Yeah.
Okay. Poor or rich?
You don't need to choose. You don't need to choose to be poor. Yeah. Realize you are rich. Yeah.
And last one, marriage or live-in?
Choice is yours.
Yeah. Thank you, Gurudev. So now it's my turn. So now I will ask you a few words, and we would like to know what is the first thought that comes to your mind. Can I start, Guruji?
Yeah.
Yeah. First word is guilty pleasure.
Just let go.
Okay. So second is sleep.
Heavy.
Third is success.
Recognize it. It's already yours.
Yeah, definitely, Guruji. And next is sex.
What is that? Sex?
Sex. Yeah.
Sex and marriage. Yeah. Part of middle age.
Okay. And next is religion.
Religion. Spirituality.
Okay. And next is money.
Means
Okay. And then God.
love.
And exams.
Pass it. Pass it.
Definitely, Guruji. And yeah, last two we have. One is love
Your true nature
and happiness.
comes in giving. You give happiness, it comes to you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Guruji. Those are very interesting answers. Yeah, over to you, Zoe.
Gurudev, me and Sasi, we recently have completed the Happiness and Yes Plus program, which was held at IIM Bangalore. We feel that it has helped us very much indeed. But others feel that meditation is just like going to the gym, where you do it for 7 days and then you stop. What is the barrier, and how can we all overcome it?
It's okay, you can have any concept in yourself, but know one thing, that your concepts keep changing. You go 7 days to a gym, but some days you don't go also. Some days you take off. But nature calls, you can't do like that. For food, you can't do food also you may skip 1 or 2 days. But breathing, you cannot say, okay, today I won't breathe, tomorrow I'll start breathing. So certain things you cannot avoid, or you cannot, stop it. You cannot not do it. And meditation will become one such thing which makes your body, your mind fresh and alive, and which you would love to do every day. When you don't do it, you feel you are missing it. You're missing something. Yeah. But it's okay to miss some days also. Fine.
Thank you, Gurudev. One next question is, why is it that the soft power of in the form of spirituality is more valued in the West than in India, even though it originated here? And what can we do as a student community to spread the awareness?
I think it's already changing. The paradigms are already shifting. Youth in a large numbers are taking to meditation in this country also now. We usually, idealize the West more than what we already have or we know. Anything that has come in the West, we have more fascination for it. But that's changing now. I think youth in this country also are taking in a big way to meditation, yoga. Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Gurudev. So we got some questions from the audience. So I'd like to ask that. First question is, why do relationships start with love and end with hate?
Lack of wisdom. And when your relationship is focused on yourself and in getting from others, happiness from others, it's one day or other it's going to end in hatred. But if the relationship is based on giving comfort to others, I think it will go on for a longer period. Yeah.
Yeah. How should also youth manage all the rejections which they face in relationships? Because we see a lot of suicides and a lot of depression among youth. So how should youth tackle it? How should they be able to accept the rejections they face in their life?
Accept the depression. Can you say that again?
So how should youth manage the rejections which they face in their relationships or in their career? Because a lot of people go into depression and it is causing suicide and everything. So how should youth manage these situations?
You know, over ambitiousness can also cause us depression, number one. We have to widen our purview of life. We should see our life from a wide angle lens. We should see, what is our goal? What do they want to achieve? And when we have set up a goal for ourselves, a bigger goal, and you must know that on the path you will face some hurdles. And this is one such hurdle, and nothing to be stuck there or get depressed. You have to take it as a challenge. Youth can take big challenges. So never stop taking challenges. The day you stop taking challenges, know that your youthfulness it's ended. You have become old already.
Yeah.
So we have to remind ourselves and rekindle that spirit to take challenges. And that one thing is good enough to overcome depressions.
Definitely.
Depression mainly is because we set our mind to certain framework and get stuck there. We're not seeing beyond that. And second cause of depression is you are underestimating your own potential.
Okay.
And whatever challenges you are facing, it appears to be unsurmountable. Because you are not able to see that you can overcome that and you have much more power in your own mind. So if we can analyze ourselves, why we are depressed, that would help. Again here, more than any analysis, meditation will be of great help because it takes you beyond the thought constraint to an area where you have more access to more energy and enthusiasm.
Got it, Gurudev. That was an excellent answer.
Gurudev, one question from what I received, that spirituality is often viewed as being, religious and closer to religion, and that is why a lot of people shy away from it, especially in the newer generation. So how is spirituality and religion different, and how is it relevant in today's times?
Religion is all mostly around rituals. Spirituality is beyond that. It's an experience, individual experience. People think that, spirituality may take you away from your pleasure or your happiness or, the things that you like most. You may have to give up them all in order to be spiritual. This notion is what keeping people away from spirituality, especially the young people. But whereas in the communist country like in Russia, where they have no idea about religion, they very easily and quickly take to spirituality because they know that there is no baggage along with that. So this clarity we must have. Religion is the real essence, real feelings, how you feel. Religion is what you believe. But spirituality is what you experience. in life. So there's a big difference between your belief system and your experience that comes in your life. Spirituality is all that which enhances your love, your compassion, your enthusiasm, your energy level. Religion is that which makes you value your family, tradition, your culture, and religion is that which gives you that inner strength. I'm not saying you should not be religious. It plays a very different role altogether. It gives you, praying gives you some strength at times of crisis. It helps people to overcome many of the fears that normally people get, So religion has its definite role to play. While religion is very restrictive and it divides, spirituality unites people of all denominations and all religions in one thread. That is why I say spirituality, the essence and the beauty of all religion.
Very well explaining, much clearer to me. In just the same context, I would like to ask that it, like you mentioned in other countries, right? So is branding equally important in the field of spirituality? Does that mean that, a business without profits or without being a, superior motive? Like, is branding equally important?
As I am, you all know, if anything has to reach to people, it should have branding. If anything that is beneficial to people, it should go with the branding. And the quality is determined with the branding, right? What is branding? That which gives you an idea about quality of a product or quality of a thing, a product. And spirituality is also like that. It needs branding. The branding only makes it free from all the jumbo bumbo things that you find in the name of spirituality. There could be many fake things in the name of spirituality happening around in the world. So I think branding is essential because that gives one thing is it helps to reach out to people. Second is it gives confidence in people because it's a time-tested thing and tested by people, and it gives confidence for them to take on to it. Yeah. And third is the authenticity, the purity and authenticity of the knowledge or wisdom that is there. This has been there from ancient times. They used to say it whether it is in according to Shastras, means standards. The Shastras they have kept some standards. This should be there in it. So when a wisdom or knowledge is presented, I said, is there any proof of it? Is it proven? And the proof was always the Shastras. Yeah.
Thank you, Gurudev.
It's the same thing in all the modern science also. Any medicine, you need, before dishing out the vaccine, you need the proof of it, correct? So for proof, then it goes through all those trials. Then you conclude then. It's good, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Gurudev. So it was like a business class for us. I have an interesting question, Gurudev. So LGBTQ communities are opposed by many religions. What do you think about this?
See, the religions which has originated in this country, the East, for example, whether Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism, Shintoism, Taoism, Sikhism, they don't talk about this. They don't say, they neither oppose it nor condone it, nor condemn nor condone. Yeah. They just leave it. It says it's an individual, taste, that's individual preferences of people. So nobody, LGBT community or anybody is not outside the purview of compassion, blessings, or togetherness. You cannot say condemn anybody because of their sex preferences, sexual preferences. No, that is not accepted in all these 6 Eastern religions. In the 6 Eastern religions mainly emphasize that everybody is a human being and they have to go within, and nobody, whosoever, whatever their tendencies are, should not be condemned, punished, or discriminated against. Yeah.
Thank you, Gurudev. Yeah. Gurudev, we have one more question from a student. His question is, Gurudev, many students take back because of fear that what other people might think about them, and how to overcome this inferiority complex in a group.
Meditation, again, I come back to the point. Meditation and this wisdom, wisdom of Vedanta helps you. Just imagine a young sannyasi from India going around the world with so much confidence and talking in world forum of religions, world parliament of religions in those days, 100 years back, is something, is a phenomenon. How did Swami Vivekananda get that much confidence, strength? Because of meditation, because of wisdom. So Vedanta, I would recommend them to read some Vedanta, the Yoga Vasishtha, books like that. Those things can give them a lot of confidence, number one. Second is definitely do pranayama and meditation. Third is, if you find you have some weaknesses and flaws, just accept them. Don't try to deny and don't try to avoid them also. Just accept them. Oh, I have these flaws. So what? Accept those flaws. And at the same time, recognize you have some very good qualities. Every individual has got some very good qualities. If you recognize and pay little more attention, wherever you put your attention, it grows. Instead of putting too much of your attention on your negative qualities, put your attention on all those positive qualities you have. That will help you to regain that so-called lost confidence. I don't think you have lost it. It's just hidden somewhere. If you think you have lost it, then you are trying to get it. I tell you, you have not lost it. It is just hiding. It has gone to sleep inside of you. Awaken them. Awaken those confidence,
Definitely, Gurudev. Yeah. So we have one more
and
question.
on top of this, if you want to do something more, maybe you should go and teach in a school, in a primary school or high school for a couple of days, volunteer there to teach people who are younger than you and guide them through something. This can also in a big way, uplift your confidence. Just spending some time with young people and teaching them whatever you know. You see?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely, Gurudev. Yeah. So we have one more question. There's a rate of increase in the number of crimes against women in India in the recent times. So what as a society we should do to address this issue?
We must do all that is possible. There is no one answer for it. There could be many answers. Many ideas could be there how to stop this. What I have seen in my interaction with all those criminals in jails around the world is, all those men who have created atrocity against women, they have done it, most of them, 90% of them, have done it under the influence of intoxicants. Either they were drunk or they were under the influence of some drugs, that is when they became more violent and they have caused, they have inflicted pain on women folks. So I consider these intoxicants is one of the big reasons for crime against women. We must at all cost avoid this. Second is sensitize people. If someone is very stressed, they are not sensitive to others' feeling. Most of the rape things happen because those people are insensitive to others' feeling. They're only focused about themselves. We need to bring that sensitivity in the human consciousness. That can happen through education. We have to be more sensible and sensitive. Education is supposed to bring us these two things. Unfortunately, we are seeing it's not happening so. So we must pay a little more attention on these two things. Yeah.
Thank you, Gurudev.
Gurudev, one question we have received. Is there anything called the luck factor? So as a generation of upcoming entrepreneurs, should we believe in luck? Should we only believe in hard work? Or is there something called smart work?
See, life is very complex. It has everything in it. There is luck in it and there is self-effort in it. And I would say when you look back the past, you accept it either luck, bad luck or good luck and move on. Why it helps, why the concept of luck helps you? Because it helps, in what way it helps you? It helps you to move forward. Instead of sitting back and analyzing the past, you accept it is my bad luck or accept it as a good luck. Then you move forward. It gives you more confidence to look forward. We often keep analyzing about the past and we regret the past and we are anxious about the future. And in the present, we are miserable. I would say accept the past as luck or good luck or bad luck or whatever it is. Look for the future, have the confidence you have enough good luck to move on in the future. And, you can be more dynamic in the present moment. Right? See, anyway, everything happens in the present only. You worry also in the present only. You worry about the future only in the present. Your anger about the past is also in the present. What is happening, our mind, though everything is in the present moment, our mind is not living in the present moment. Our mind is stuck in the past or projecting itself in the future. So bringing the mind to the present moment is what one calls living the present moment. It's simply being more mindful, more aware, more conscious of this moment, enjoying this very moment as a present to us. Present moment as a gift, And all this wisdom and meditation, they all geared to making you live a more vibrant life. Vibrancy comes when the mind is integrated in the present moment. If you are thinking about the past or future, you are absent-minded, right? Your mind is in a fog. So a fog-free, more alert, vibrant mind is what is meant by living in the present moment. And it is possible, and we have done this as a child. We have done it when we were going to schools. We used to be upset, and then it never would take more than a few minutes for us to bounce back to our joy and our enthusiasm. But in adulthood, somewhere we seem to be losing it. We constantly seem to be stuck about the past and judging over right, wrong, good, bad, and I did right, I should have done this. You regret about something which you have no control over it. You can't do anything about it. It's already gone, right? And this only creates more toxins in our system, and it robs us away from our enthusiasm and our energy level. It robs us away of our energy. And that is where it's important to snap back again and again to the present.
Gurudev, just second last question. That we do hear you that we have to live in present and not worry about past or future. But as a generation, and in the times of COVID, haven't we learned that we need to respect nature more and adopt sustainable practices for the future and think about it right now?
Definitely. We have to honor the nature, we have to nurture the nature, and we have to be more sensitive to the nature. Yeah. I'm glad today the youths are much more conscious about the nature. They are more proactive in preservation of environment than the past generations. This is a very good news around the world, I'm saying, not just in India, around the world, people are so much more conscious. Yes. And I would recommend everyone to have their own little garden, even if it's in the flats or wherever they are. Even in your drawing room, you can have some plants. In your balcony, you can grow some plants. And when you want to do something, you can really do it. And take it as a challenge and pay attention to environment. And then rainwater harvesting, something that all of us can do. We can catch some rain and drink pure rainwater. We started here in our campus here, so catching rainwater, and it tastes so different than all the RO water and all the other bottled water. We have plenty of rain everywhere. Why not we do this? Everyone start collecting some rainwater, and you can save some bugs also in that. And good water. First you have to leave for first 4-5 minutes. You should not collect. There could be some dust and fumes in the atmosphere. So, but after those initial few minutes, if you collect the rainwater and just drink it, you will find the difference. You'll find a big difference. So water conservation, rainwater harvesting, taking care about organic food. This is something also we must all pay attention to. Organic. Turn the globe into more organic field rather than putting all these chemicals and fertilizers. And if you all can encourage farmers who are growing organic vegetables and grains, that will also be very big service to society, especially for farmers. Yeah.
Thank you, Gurudev. That was encouraging. One interesting question which I did not want to miss, which we received was, how can I or we become the next Sri Sri?
There is a Sri Sri inside you already. Just you wake up, that's all. Wake up and just look in the mirror, and you do have a me inside of you. A me is one who is compassionate and one who feels everyone belongs to him or her. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Gurudev. Thanks a lot. Over to you, Shashi.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Gurudev. That was such an enlightening session. Now, on behalf of as a token of our appreciation, a contribution has been made in your name to Save Trees, an organization that works on tree plantation in India. Agroforestry samplings have been planted in your name and has made a difference to the life of a farmer in Karnataka. Thank you so much, sir. Now I call upon Professor Hrishikesha Krishna to say last few words.
So Gurudev, thank you very much for sparing time for us. It was very interesting and motivating to hear your comments and answers. Particularly, I'm very appreciative of the way you respond to questions from our young friends who have a lot of interesting questions, but you answered them with a lot of wit and equanimity. And, I really like the way you responded to them. So thank you very much on behalf of the Institute, and we hope that we will continue to have your blessings and good wishes in the years ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gurudev.